Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Controlled or Be Controlled. I remain your humble host, Darlington Ubuka. This is a podcast that is designed to help you start thinking differently. Today's guest is Michael Michiels, a personal development coach whose journey is rooted in one powerful decision to rebuild his life after years of severe bullying and self-doubt. What started as a fight to regain confidence and self-worth has grown into over 15 years of studying how the mind works and what actually creates lasting change. Today, Michael focuses on helping people understand their thoughts and behavior so they can shift from feeling stuck to taking real control of their life. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Darlington. It's great to be here.
Thank you very much. So, can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
So my name is Michael Michiels. I'm 32 years old right now. And honestly, if I have to have anything as my core foundation, it is personal growth. Because that is the one thing that actually saved my life. Because back in the day in high school, I used to be bullied for years. And we're probably going to be talking about that in more detail. But the thing is, that left me devastated and shattered into a million different pieces. And I had to, through personal growth, rebuild myself brick by brick by brick. And so that is like very core to me, very dear to me, because I wouldn't be here otherwise. And that's also the message that I want to share with other people so that they can improve themselves as well. And that is actually the reason why I'm creating content, why I'm here on this podcast. And other than that, if there's anything specific you want to know, just let me, just ask.
Okay, Michael, thank you very much. So, I have some questions for you here. You went through years of bullying that deeply impacted your confidence and self-worth. So, tell us, what was the turning point that made you decide to rebuild your life instead of staying stuck?
So I think there was a point where I didn't really have a choice in the matter. I had to go to personal growth because the alternative was just ending it. That is the turning point I've been at where I didn't see a way of things getting better in the moment. And so because of that, I felt like I was stuck, like life was never going to get any better. Like, is this it? That is the kind of thoughts that went through my mind because at the time, because of being bullied every single day, basically, I felt like the biggest freaking loser you can think of. I felt like the entire world was against me. And so in those moments, I'm like, because I couldn't see things getting better, I'm like, do I even want to continue on like this? But at the same time, like you said, that turning point, there was also another voice inside of me. And that voice is inside of all of us, the real us. And that voice said, hey, Michael, no, don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on life. You are not the freaking problem. Those bullies out there, they are the problem. And so I decided back then and there that I would become more successful than my bullies could even dream of being. And even though I'm not at that point yet, that is something that really kept me moving forward, that truly became the turning point of my life. Because I decided to embrace personal growth. I decided to listen to the real me and to become the person I was meant to be.
Thank you very much, Michael. So, Michael, you always say that the mind is the key to change. What's something most people completely misunderstand about how their own mind works?
There are a lot of things most people don't understand, but if I had to point out one thing, it is very simple. Most people only encounter the symptoms in their own lives, but they don't understand the real problems, which are usually just one layer beneath the surface. So, to give you one example of that, procrastination is what people think a problem is in their life. People procrastinate, but that's not the real issue. Procrastination is the symptom. And underneath that, there is maybe a fear of failure, a fear of criticism. There is the present bias. And there are a lot of psychological things underneath procrastination that are the issue. And so when you just try to use time management techniques or productivity hacks and apps, that doesn't work. because it doesn't address the real psychological issue. So when you understand your mind, you dig one layer deeper until you find the real problems. And when you know the real problem, you can get to the real solution, not just these band-aid fixes that never work long term. That is why understanding your mind is so crucial.
So thank you, Michael. So take us through your journey. In your own journey of rebuilding yourself over the past 15 years, what was the hardest belief or pattern that you had to break?
So for me, there were like setbacks at every turn. It wasn't a smooth journey. People just make it seem, oh yeah, just go on this path and it's a straight line up. But that's not how it works in real life. So for me, the first major point was actually getting into motion. And this was a stage where I was just listening to some YouTube videos, reading blog posts, and whatever information was out there. Because this was like 16, 17 years ago. So YouTube was just coming up. But just listening to content and reading about it and reading books and blogs and that kind of stuff, that got me started. And it felt good. Because it gave me the sense that I at least had some control over my future. So that was the first thing. But secondly, when it comes to implementing, there have been many projects I've tried in the past that I either didn't take consistent effort or I gave up too soon. So another turning point was learning how to control myself, basically, to become more disciplined, to learn how to move things forward, even when I didn't feel like it. And on top of that, another huge turning point in my journey was that I finally started understanding how this thing worked. And that took me a few years. But now I can use my own emotions, my own motivation, turn that into a powerful why, and use that to propel myself forward. So I think these are a few crucial turning points of my journey that I think we all go through at some point. So it is learning, like setting a vision for yourself, learning why it is important, and learning how to actually take the steps to become the person that you want to become. And if you have all three, then you're gonna really move forward.
Michael, when someone feels stuck in low confidence or negative thinking, what is the first practical step you guide them to take?
There are quite a few, but I would say one of the starting points would be to become a person you can actually trust and be proud of. So just think about it like this. If you and I are friends and I'm constantly making promises that I'm going to help you and I'm constantly boasting about all of the great things I'm going to do with my life, but I never take action, I never come true on those promises, I break them all the time, you are not going to trust me anymore, are you? But it's the same thing with ourselves as well. So when you say, I'm going to wake up early and I'm going to go to the gym, but then you snooze 17 times. Or you say, after work, I'm going to work on my side project. But that project 2 years later is still not started. The more of those kinds of promises you break to yourself, the lower your trust in yourself is going to be. So one of the first crucial steps I would take with someone is to have them get started on this path where they make more promises to themselves and they keep them. So that they know that when they say they're going to do something, they actually follow through. And like in tandem with that, if someone can go to bed at night feeling proud of themselves for the day, that feeling boosts confidence. And now it becomes a journey of how many days in a row can I continue this compounding effect? Even if you start small, can you build on top of this? And when you do, that's how you start building this belief in yourself. That you are the person that you say that you are, that you're consistent with it. And that is ultimately the core of what confidence is all about.
Talking about rebuilding confidence and self-esteem step by step, What does that actually feel like or look like in the early stage? Like how will you know you are on track in the early stages?
I would say that at least in the early stages, you have a vision for yourself. You have a part of you that knows this is what I stand for. That is the foundation. Because if you don't know who you want to become as a man and what you want to achieve in your life, then you're just going to be going around and around in circles endlessly. That is the first starting point. Then, how consistent are you in doing those things so that you have something that you can feel proud of, so that you have something where you can say, you know what, I'm moving in the right direction. So, daily action is another one. And then, one guiding part of how well you're moving forward would be how often do you feel discomfort? How often do you feel a ton of fear because you're trying new things? Because a lot of us, we stay stuck in this small circle that we call our comfort zone. The more often we can push outside of that, even briefly, the better that zone and the bigger that zone is going to be. So when you encounter a lot of discomfort, when you're met with a lot of failure, when you're met with a ton of frustration along the way, when you're trying, that is when you know you're on the right path. We often think that failure is something to be avoided. But in reality, you fail and you fail again and again and again and again. And you rise like a phoenix from the ashes of your failure. And that is what creates the next breakthrough.
So how do you help people separate what is going on in their mind from who they are as a person?
Can you repeat the question?
How do you help people separate what is going on in their mind from who they are as a person?
So, yeah, one of the things that we want to avoid is I don't have my phone within reach, but I don't. But one of the main problems is that these days we don't have time to think about who we are, what we really want, and what is going on inside of us. Because from morning to the moment of going to bed, most people are either in the car driving to work, at their job, or on their phone, or watching Netflix, or something like that. We are constantly distracted by everything around us. So, if I had to give one piece of advice, make sure you have some time where you can sit. No distractions, just you and your thoughts. And then ask yourself, why do I feel so hesitant when approaching a woman, for example? Or why haven't I started with this project? Or what do I what am I afraid of that people are going to see about me? You ask these kinds of questions of yourself, and then you just wait and you listen. And your mind is going to bring up a lot of insecurities. And your mind is going to feed you the things that are bothering you, the insecurities, the doubts, the limiting beliefs. Those things are going to be coming to the surface. So only by making time where you are quiet enough and your environment is quiet enough so that you can actually hear yourself think, only then are you going to have that introspection that we all need in order to find ourselves. Because otherwise, we're just going to be in like at the mercy of those deeply rooted beliefs beyond the surface.
Michael, you focus a lot on practical personal development. So what's one simple but powerful tool or habit that has created the biggest change for your clients?
There are quite a few. One of them, I would say, is that I've now transformed into the 1-3-5 method. And this is something I had to build through trial and error. Of course, it's three parts: the 1, the 3, and the 5. So the 1 stands for one overarching goal. So maybe right now that means that you're focusing on your health and fitness. Maybe that means that you improve your social skills. Maybe that means that you have something in your relationships or in your career that you're focusing on. But know what that result is going to be. So, one overarching goal. Then, if you have a huge goal for yourself, that's going to be motivating. but it's also going to be intimidating. So with the 3, what I want you to do here is to break it down every single day. What are 3 small things you can do to get started towards that goal? So for example, if your goal, for example, for me, if my goal is to build my YouTube channel up, my 3 tasks for today were working on a lead magnet, creating thumbnail templates, and then doing 2 of my podcasts. So 3 activities that get you closer towards your goal. And bonus points if you can make them small. Because the smaller they are, the more easy it is to get started. And then you end the day with the 5, which means 5 minutes of self-reflection, where you ask yourself, did I do the 3 things? Or did I not do the 3 things? And if not, why not? What got in your way? What could you have done differently? Ask yourself these kinds of questions. And again, no distractions. Just you and maybe a pen and a piece of paper. That's it. And when you do this, you have a clear focus on where you're heading. You have a clear focus in every day of what you need to be doing in order to get towards the goal. And then the self-reflection, that gives you the clarity to understand what is going on in your mind, so that the next day you can do better and you can do better and you can become just that 1% better every single day. So that's my 1-3-5 method.
Michael, most people struggle with consistency and discipline. So from your experience, what do you think can create a type of discipline that lasts?
There's multiple steps that go into this, but I would say that there are 2 crucial things I want everyone to understand. The first is a concept that I call you follow your words. And it means this. When we talk about ourselves with a lot of these I am statements, what we think we're doing is we think we're describing the present day us. In reality, you're describing your future. And this has to do with a concept that I learned early on from Tony Robbins. Our identity. So in short, everything that we attach to the words I am, that starts becoming part of our identity. And our minds, they gotta fight tooth and nail in order to stay congruent with that identity. So for example, when you say, I'm just not a disciplined person, or I'm a loser, or I can never do those kinds of things, those become part of you. So now if you try to move forward, if you try to be more disciplined, your mind is going to say, whoa, 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 hold up. That's not you. You're not a disciplined person, remember? And so when you use those kinds of I am statements, they trap you. They become part of your future. So the first thing to break is the way you talk about yourself, both to other people, but most importantly to yourself. So when you find yourself, for example, saying, I'm just a loser, put that into the past tense. I was a loser. And what you can do then is you insert a new belief that is growth oriented. But you say, for example, I was a loser, but I am getting better and better every single day. Something like that. And that is the first mindset part of building discipline. The second part is more practical. This is where I use my 10-second rule. So when I was first building up my discipline, what I did was I picked an activity that you can do within 10 seconds. In my case, it was 3 push-ups. I took out my phone, I set random alarms. And now whenever one of those alarms went off, what I did was I did those 3 push-ups. It's not about the exercise, but what I was doing is I was teaching myself that I could take action on demand. Because discipline, it is a skill, and you can train it just like a muscle. So when you do this, you are proving to yourself that you can be disciplined. And the more you reinforce this day after day after day, the better your ability to be disciplined is going to be.
Michael, thank you very much. You have exhausted basically all my questions. So my final question for you is this. For someone listening right now who feels they are at rock bottom, what would you want them to understand first?
There's a few things. First and foremost, what I want you to understand is that I have been through rock bottom myself. And in hindsight, you're probably not going to want to hear this right now. But in hindsight, those worst times of my life were actually the best times because they forced me to grow into the person you see before you today. And so, with rock bottom, if you focus on improving just a tiny bit every single day, you're going to look back at this moment in your life 5 years or 10 years from now, and you're going to be laughing because you know how much you've grown from it. So that is just one message of, I guess, comfort. But secondly, start thinking about what you do want to get out of life. What is that next step for you? If you are at rock bottom right now, what does it look like when you're 5 steps above that? Have a vision for where you want to go and why it's important to you to achieve that. Then every day, start with at least one small thing that you're going to do in order to get out of your situation. And by the way, if you're in a situation right now of rock bottom, listening to this is actually a step forward because you are training your mind, you are changing your mindset. And then focus on what you can control. There are a lot of things outside of your control, which is probably why you ended up at rock bottom. So focus on what can you do right now, today, in order to make life and your future just a little bit better. What can you do so that you can feel proud of your activity today? Focus on that. And the next day, do the same thing. And the next day, do the same thing. You will get out of this if you start taking those steps forward. And especially at first, they don't have to be big steps. Any step is better. And then what you do once you've taken a step is you reinforce it. You celebrate the win because you freaking did it. And actually, you can pat yourself on the shoulder right now because you're still listening to this. And then just keep that momentum going. And over time, you can take slightly bigger steps and slightly bigger steps and slightly bigger steps. And that is how you ultimately get out of rock bottom so that you can become your best self.
Thank you very much, Michael. I believe you have provided a lot of value for my audience and those who are listening. So before you go, where can my audience learn more about you and your work and connect with you?
I would say the best way is on YouTube, which is where I publish all of my long form videos. And you can do that by just going to YouTube and type in the search bar Michael Michiels. Or you go to youtube.com/@Michael Michiels. And then if confidence is something that you're struggling with right now, you can go to michaelmichiels.com/confidence. And that page is going to lead you to a lead magnet of mine where I'm going to walk you through my straight line confidence system for absolutely free. So that is michaelmichiels.com/confidence if you're struggling with your confidence, your self-esteem, and your self-image.
So Michael, once again, thank you for sharing your story and the work you are doing to help people rebuild from the inside out. Thank you very much, Michael. And thank you for being on the show. And to everyone out there who is listening to this, your starting point doesn't define your ending. From Michael's experience, what matters is what you choose to do next, is what you have been through. Until next time again, see you on this same podcast. Take control or be controlled. See you in the next episode.